Okay, so the good thing is I got through half of the slides in the last one, so hopefully this one won't be too much longer. Okay, let me take myself off of here. Okay, so Joseph Conrad. He was born Joseph Theodore Conrad, and however you want to say these two things, I'm not going to attempt it. He was born in Ukraine in December of 1857. Conrad's father and mother, Apollo and Ewa, were political activists. They were imprisoned for 7 months and eventually deported to Volgograd. Apollo introduced his son to the work of Dickens, Fenimore Cooper, and Captain Marryat in Polish and French translations. So he was very well educated, and he already had, an idea of activism from his parents. His father died of tuberculosis, and his funeral was attended by thousands of admirers. Conrad was raised by his uncle, attended school. He was disobedient while he was in school. In 1874, Conrad went to France and joined the Merchant Navy. Gun running from the Spanish and a love affair led to a suicide attempt. Conrad became a British merchant sailor and eventually a master mariner and citizen in 1886. His 10 years in the British Merchant Marine shaped most of his stories. Conrad traveled widely in the East. He took on a stint as a steamer captain in 1890 in the Congo, but became ill within 3 months and had to leave. Conrad retired from sailing and took up writing full-time. He died of a heart attack in 1924. He's buried in Canterbury Cathedral, which a lot of the other authors that we've read in this course are also buried in Canterbury Cathedral. Heart of Darkness. It was first published as a serial in London's Blackwood magazine in 1899. It was basically a bound book in 1902. It's considered by many to be the finest short novel ever written in English. So I know a lot of you will be so excited because it is a short novel. Bridges the Victorian and modern literary periods. Modern criticism sharply divided over merit due to racist imperialist themes. However, I think these themes are important because it shows the book, Conrad shows the brutality of the ivory trade and how the natives were exploited. So are there some hard things to read in the book? Yes. But I do think they're important for us to understand that part of history. After a long stint in the East had come to an end, he was having trouble finding a new position. With the help of a relative in Brussels, he got the position as captain of a steamer for a Belgian trading company. So once again, remember, Belgium basically owned the Congo at this point. Conrad had always dreamed of sailing the Congo. He had to leave early for the job as the previous captain was killed in a trivial quarrel. Conrad saw some of the most shocking and depraved examples of human corruption he had ever witnessed. He was disgusted by the ill treatment of the natives, the scrabble for loot, and the terrible heat and the lack of water. He saw human skeletons of bodies left to rot. Many were men from the chain gangs building the railroads. And I'm not going to show a picture of that. Maybe later when I'm there. He found his ship was damaged. Dysentery was rampant, as was malaria. Conrad had to terminate his contract due to illness and never fully recovered. Heart of Darkness narrative structure. Okay, so it's a framed narrative. So remember what that is. It's a story within a story. Narrator begins. Marlowe takes over. Narrator breaks in occasionally, like, hey, this is what's happening. Marlowe is Conrad's alter ego. He shows up in some of Conrad's other works, including Youth, A Narrative, and Lord Jim. Marlowe recounts his tale while he is on a small vessel on the Thames, which is in London, with some drinking buddies who are ex-merchant seamen. He recounts his story. The group sits in an all-encompassing darkness. Okay, and this is the narrative structure of Heart of Darkness. I'll post this somewhere where you can refer to it as well. All right, some contrast in Heart of Darkness. Obviously, we're going to have light versus dark. And then a couple of other ones, racism versus anti-racism, imperialism versus insolitary evil. What makes well-intentioned people do bad things? So some people, honest to goodness, thought they were doing the right thing. This goes back thousands of years. Okay, so, a man would go on a crusade because he needed to do the right thing. Same thing happened in South America and the United States. We would have priests and nuns come over to try and indoctrinate Native Americans, and a lot of them thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were civilizing these people. However, some of them were downright evil, and some of them just liked torturing people, and some of them just loved exploiting the natural resources that belonged to the natives, whether it was in Africa, South America, or here in North America. Oh no. Darkness, primitive impulses. Kurt's a previous captain. He's going to be another character. Kurt's is probably my favorite um, character, not because he's like a good guy or anything, just because of how he acts in the story. Lies, hypocrisy, imperialization, colonization, power corrupts, savage versus civil. So while you're reading this, I want you to actually think about who is the savage and who are the civil people. Role of women. Civilization is exploitive of women. Civilization is a binding and self-perpetuating force. Physical connected to psychological barriers. There's going to be fog, thick forest, bodies of water that they have to cross. Yep, so these are some of the characters. Varied interpretations. Some feel the novel offers a scathing attack on colonialist ideology. Others feel that the novel celebrates and defends colonization and racism. Some see Kurtz as the embodiment of all evil and horror in capitalist society. Others view it as a portrayal of one man's journey into the primitive unconscious where one must confront one's own inner darkness. Still others see it as a modern journey quest, perhaps with an anti-hero rather than a hero. So I'm not sure if Miss Underwood has read this. I think she told me she did. I feel more with the first one and the fourth one. I want you to decide for yourself and just kind of get used to this because this is going to be your last discussion board. Okay, so just a hint. All right. These are just criticisms from when it was first written versus some today. Same thing here. So Victorian literature, which we just finished up, and then this is modern literature. So in Victorian literature, traditional subject matter, form, and style deals with issues of the day, including social, economic, religious, and intellectual issues, industrial revolution, class tensions, early feminist movement, impact of Darwin's theories on evolution. So here soon, we're really going to look at the social and economic things. That's going to be part of your project. The modern post-World War I, World War II, authors experiment with subject matter, form, and style, deals with issues of the day, including the horrors of war, massive loss of life, loss of faith, expanding technology and science. This is just some review of the criticisms. I'm not going to worry about those too much. Those are a good way to look at different lenses. So there are movie versions of the book, Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is going to be based in Vietnam, and it's sort of like a reimagining of what the Americans did in Vietnam. We were going there to civilize and help civil unrest, but what actually happened in Vietnam. Very similar to Heart of Darkness. Now, I have never watched this version. No idea what is happening in it. So, yeah, but that's just movie versions. I gotta go over that. Circle of influence. He influenced all of these guys. And then I do apologize for some of the wording right here, but that's what the title of his book is. So those are other works of Joseph Conrad. And that's it. I will see you guys soon.